We're here to honor Lenore Kandel, both her life and her work, her poetry, especially the book that was just recently published by North Atlantic Books, the collected poems of Lenore Kandel, which is, I'm very proud to say that I had a part in. You might be wondering, who is this guy and why is he standing here? I'm just here to tell you that there's going to be an open mic belly dancing contest after this. But that's at my house, so... So my involvement with this book is such that I moved here in June of 2009, and I started interning for North Atlantic Books, and it was one of those things where I moved here coming from the service industry, and I thought I was always going to be a line cook or something, and I applied to a bunch of restaurants when I got here, thinking that I was just going to, find a job quickly, find a place to stay, and nobody would hire me. And I was dressed a lot nicer than this, and I had shorter hair, and I don't know why they didn't hire me, but I said, well, to hell with it, I'll just go to apply to a place that I'd like to work, And so 3 days later, I had an internship. Of course, it was unpaid. But I basically told them that they were going to have to kick me out, that I was going to keep coming back. Not only were they okay with that, they tried to find ways to put me to work that would be mutually beneficial. North Atlantic Books is a really special place, and I couldn't have been luckier to have landed there. And I got a little emotional about it last night, actually. I'm going to try not to do that now. But I do want to thank Engh so much for believing in this book and for putting extra work into it. It's only been about 4 years now that I've been involved in the publishing industry in any way, but in that time I've seen lots of wonderful books that don't really make it in the world because of the nature of the industry and because everybody's overworked as it is, and a lot of editors and publicity mavens, as the case might be, don't have the time or the energy to put into the book. And I was very happy when I saw that Kat was putting in the effort for this book, and it means a lot to me and to a lot of people who were touched by Lenore and her poetry. So if we could just maybe have a hand for Kat. You're supposed to blush, right? Yeah. She's been planning this party for, I don't know, well over half a year. Yeah. We did another party at the Beat Museum. Raise your hand if you were there. Okay. Stephen walks in the door and raises his hand. I love it. Welcome. Hi. It's so good to see you. Hi, Sarah. I guess I'm sorry, you guys. I'm going to say the exact same things that I said at the Beat Museum. I'm just kidding. But I would say, I don't know, maybe did you get into the IO series a little bit? I don't know that I need to. Yeah, a tiny bit. So North Atlantic Books, this whole press that's been around for 38 years now, it's changed a lot, obviously, as the industry has in 40 years. But it did start as like this avant-garde literary journal that Richard and Lindy, started when they were in separate schools in college in Massachusetts. And it was really a pioneering journal in that it published a lot of multidisciplinary work back in, 1967, I want to say, like basically the time that Lenore was getting harassed for writing the Love Book. So it's come a long way, North Atlantic Books has, and basically to make it, various things have happened. They started a nonprofit. They became a nonprofit organization and established several niche markets within their publishing house. And as an effort to kind of veer back into the literary roots of the organization, not that they don't still publish literary books, they've started a series called the IO Poetry Series, which is obviously paying tribute to the roots of the literary journal. And this book, the collected poems of Lenore Kandel, is part of that series. I think it's the third. It's the fourth book in the series, and it's all poets who were prominent in Lindy and Richard's generation, which, obviously Lenore was one of those. In fact, Richard told a story at the Beat Museum where he was trying to publish Lenore, 30 years ago or something, and he explained that back then it was like you applied for a grant, and if you got the grant, you published the book, and if you didn't get the grant, there's no book, and they didn't get the grant. And so he was very happy, to be able to publish this book finally after all these years. So let's see. The next thing I want to say, I guess, a lot of you know Peter Coyote. He wasn't able to make it here tonight, which I'm sorry to say. He's having some health issues, but he's okay. But the word he used was ashamed that he couldn't make it, and he's really just bummed out because he and Lenore were like really best buds, and he did send some words along that I'm going to read to you now. So. The first time I saw Lenore and her lover Bill, sweet William Fritch, was at a meeting of the Artist Liberation Front in San Francisco in late April or May of 1966 at a gathering at the Mime Troupe studio. The room was full of Haight Street denizens and artists, furred, long-haired, buzz-cut, but all sharing revolutionary sentiments about the role of the arts and culture in political life. At the back of the room, I noticed the two most beautiful humans I think I had ever seen. Bill was wearing bright blue leather Levi's and Lenore bright red leathers. They were so handsome and charismatic I was bowled over. They looked like people who would never be bored, would have no lame friends. They appeared authentic and self-actualized, and I marched over and introduced myself, and from that moment on we became fast friends and saw one another nearly every day. What I most admired about Lenore, he says, was a cosmically deep sense of humor based on the big picture, where even the self is less than dust. She always seemed happy and tranquil, and even when she was suffering greatly near the end, when we spoke, I never heard her complain or snivel. And I can attest to that. So, let me get started with the readings. Did everybody get one of these Litquake guides? If you didn't, we have extras, right?
We have tons.
Okay, we have tons.
Well, that's the exaggeration.
Yeah.
Dramatic.
Okay, that was dramatic exaggeration, perfect. Image enlarged to show texture. Yeah, I think they're on the table, maybe, and there's definitely some towards the front of the room as well. Anyways, I bring this up not just because Mitch Minna did a good job with the design, but because they have the author bios in them on page 22. And so you can read those. I'm not going to just read them out of the book because that really bores me when I'm in a room and the host does that. So I asked everybody a few questions so that you can maybe get to know them as human beings and not just like by what they've done. And I'm just going to read for like maybe 2 minutes some of their answers. I'm going to do just one at a time and then bring them up, and they'll each get about 8 minutes or so to read. And they'll impress you with their rhetoric far greater than I will. So we'll get going. The first performer tonight is Liz Green. Hi, Liz. So Liz's favorite author is Octavia Butler, whose work Liz describes as scary, prophetic, brilliant, cinematic, and surreal. And if you've read Lenore's book, Word Alchemy, I think you know that these apply to Lenore also. Liz often quotes James Baldwin. The purpose of art is to lay bare the questions that have been hidden by the answers. And she draws hope when she sees cynicism blossom into astute criticism in her students, when she sees their passion for the trivial in pop culture deepen into an understanding of what gives something universal appeal. So, ladies and gentlemen, if we could welcome Liz Green.